Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Star Trek Lost Stars. My name is Tony Morrow. Thank you for joining us. If you're joining us live, of course, thank you for joining us live here and now on this wonderful Saturday morning, coming to you from the Pacific West Coast of North America. But if you're catching us on the replay, then please accept my humble gratitude for you spending some time watching this fan fiction that we are creating here. But if you are a first-time viewer and saying, Tony, what in the world is this thing called Star Trek Lost Stars? First, this is a 4X turn-based strategy game that we all play, friends of mine and myself. We get together and play this online using the rule set from the Amarillo Design Bureau of the Federation and Empire game. We play it online using a platform called Vassal, and we share it with you live in this format to help share the story, the narrative, the fun that we're having, and all. It's a community that we're looking to grow and build here on this YouTube channel, Facebook page, and if you're catching us on Twitch, building a community of folks who enjoy this game, play it together, and just have a lot of fun doing it. So if that sounds like you, a person who likes strategy, turn-based Star Trek, or even just sci-fi in general, then please consider giving it a thumbs up, maybe a subscribe. Let us know what you think. Why would you do that? Because, going to the name of this show, Star Trek Lost Stars, it's about to change. We have just started a brand new campaign called Star Trek New Worlds. So, what are we talking about in today's episode of Star Trek New Worlds? Well, we're going to be talking about the details of this latest campaign. We're going to report on the Battle of Kitty Litter as per the thumbnail. We'll give you a roundup of a roundup of the turns, or a turn reveal, maybe up to 20. We'll see. We'll talk about that in a moment, and then have this conversation about, do you want to play with us? So let's start from the bottom and work our way back up. Do you want to play with us? As I said, we are building this community of players of this game, this rule set called Federation and Empire. It's set in the Starfleet universe, which, if that doesn't mean anything to you, think of Star Trek, the original series, and if you've ever been fun to watch on Netflix, the Star Trek animated series, so TOS and TAS respectively, that is all set in what's referred to as the Starfleet universe. Different from TNG, different from the movies that you've seen, and everything that's come since. And so that is the sort of the sci-fi world in which it exists. It's sort of its own Star Trek IP, and when we talk about the Star Trek IP, that's just a whole bog of mess that we won't get into, but that's where we're living. That's where this game is set, and that's where sort of the Starfleet battles are played. It's a 4X game, so we are exploring new space, expanding our borders, exploiting resources, and coming up against enemies. Whether you want to exterminate them, that's up to you, but it's a 4X game, and it's turn-based. So we play this, not in real time, of course, but turn-based. We play it over sort of, sounds antiquated maybe to say over email, but we use email to be able to exchange information, Vassal being the map that I show you on this show. And then, of course, we use spreadsheets, whether it's Google Sheets or Excel, to be able to convey information and data around balance sheets and things like that. But if you are a fan of sci-fi, you like turn-based games, then maybe you would be interested in joining our campaign. Let's talk about that campaign. So we have started a new campaign from turn one. It's called Star Trek New Worlds. And we are currently based with 7 players, but we have as many as, well, let me take a step back. So as you know, as per the last episode, if you haven't seen that, then please check out the Star Trek Lost Stars live stream playlist or the channel, and just check the last video that was posted. The last campaign we were playing, which was Star Trek Lost Stars, came to a sudden end. And so we have started our new campaign, and a couple things have changed. One, we have a new GM who has boldly taken on the roles and responsibilities of managing the chaos that is the gameplay that we have. So a new GM in the seat. We also have a variety of different players that are playing with us. We have a total of 7 players in this particular campaign, and many of them are players that you will sort of be familiar with to a certain degree from our previous game. Many of them started late in that campaign as sort of the smaller player empires that were played, and now we're all starting sort of on the same foot, fresh start. So we are starting that campaign with 7 players, but as per sort of real strategy game sort of spawning and starting a game, there's 10 total starting spots. So we have 7 players currently. We have 10 starting points for various players that that can be there. And so what we're looking to do is bring in some more players. Now, before, in previous episode, we talked about the Baker's Dozen, the push for 13, or the 13 and the push for 15. Based on sort of the changing landscape of players and the GM, we're going to go for 10 this time around. We'll push to 10. And at this point, because we've already started the campaign, we can still do that because in these early days of the campaign, and if you caught us at the very early part of our stream broadcast episodes in Lost Stars, the previous campaign, then you saw that we start off sort of very isolated and on our own. And as we expand out, we will eventually start bumping into other players. Now, before that occurs, a lot of those turns are happening in isolation. Basically, it's you and the GM having a powwow back and forth about what you're doing, and there's no interaction with other players. So until while that's still the case, before you bump into other players, we can introduce new players to a certain degree in the map. Now, that's a short window, which means there are only a couple weeks at best that we can do this. So if that is something that you would be interested in, you are interested in joining our campaign, then please, if you're in with us live, head over to the Facebook page. The link is in the chat right now. You can see it there. I will also pin it in the comments for this video after the live stream is over, so be on the lookout for that as well. But you can head over to our Facebook page, and then you can contact me. The Facebook page at this moment still says Star Trek Lost Stars. You can contact me via Facebook Messenger, and then you can let me know that you would like to join the campaign. I will put you in contact with the GM, and then we can see how that maps forward. So that's our process. That's our procedure, so to speak. So if you want to play with us, then please head over to the Facebook page, Star Trek Lost Stars, and contact me, and we can go from there. So 7 new players, a new GM, and as I mentioned in the last episode, I am reprising my role as Les Klingons. Totally different take on the Klingons, though. So let me share a couple things. One, let's start with the turn reveal, and then I will talk into the narrative about what the Klingons are all about in this game. So I thought about the turn reveal quite a bit in this game, as far as what would I want to do in this context. In this new game, many of the players watch this live stream. So if I share with you all the ins and outs of what's going on and I'm fully transparent, then they get to see all that as well. When we're sort of all bumped into each other, it's not a big deal. However, while we're isolated in this sort of period of time, it could be a challenge because I'm revealing too much information. But at the same time, if I don't show you anything, why you're watching. So here's the compromise I've come up with. I'm not going to show you all my turns. I'll show you the first couple. As per the thumbnail, I will show you up to the Battle of Kitty Litter and show you what that looks like. And we will explore, for example, the Battle of Kitty Litter, how that works. There's some mechanics there that are sort of good to know. And sort of the strategy, or like what is happening from the Klingon perspective at this early stage in the game. Because many of the players, again, these turns are happening in isolation to a certain degree, so we're trying to get up to turn 20 for everybody, and then once everyone's sort of at that milestone, we'll continue to move forward. From the Klingon perspective, we have submitted up to turn 20. We've received a number of them back, and I will share with you up to a certain number, and we'll go from there, if that makes any sense. I'm kind of basing it on where the sort of the player who is, I don't want to say the slowest player. That's not the way I want to frame it. But the person who is sort of at the lowest turn number, if that makes sense, I'll share up to that turn and then go from there. Just so that there's no way that we're like, I don't want to negatively influence anybody or like veer people off in the wrong direction. So with all that being said, we got some map sharing to do here in a moment. But before I get into that, I would like to share with you the story behind the Klingon Empire for this game. Let's see here. I pulled it up. There we are. Okay. So before I get into that, actually, let me just take a quick second to go over to the live stream, or sorry, the chat, I should say, and acknowledge the folks that are in the chat right now. So, for example, we've got all players in the game. We got Jim, Paul, looks like Chuck joined us. So going through the chat right here, we can see that Jim, as per normal, as we're warming up the live stream in the intro, was getting his fusion beams ready. He is playing the Hydrons in this game, our tentacular friends, as we like to say. So pick your pleasure or your poison, as the case may be. He's your man, the methane-breathing foul folk that they are, the Hydrons. We've also got Paul. Hi, Paul. How you doing? Paul is currently playing the ISC, or as we refer to them in other episodes, the Galactic NATO with a very big stick. Not necessarily playing it that way in this game. We'll see how that goes, but Paul's having fun. And then there's Chuck. Chuck's playing the Lyrans. So ironically, Lyrans play into the story I'll be telling today, but Lyrans are, as per if you've seen our previous episodes, they're kind of like space mountain lions, so to speak. 2 feet, two arms, 2 legs, stand upright, but they look like cat people. And if you want to think of a cat that they look like, they're like lynx or mountain lions, that kind of thing. So you can see all these folks are spouting away here that they've submitted up to 15 or 20 respectively on their turns. And so we'll see how that kind of all comes forward as we go. Oh, I can hear a little audio coming from somewhere. Give me 1 second. There we go. I've obviously pressed a button. There it is. Got it. All right. So let's tell you the story about the Klingons. So just as a preface to say, the model or the way of thinking about the Klingons in this game is very different from the last game. I mean, they are Klingons, so to speak. But from a visual perspective, I want you to think about smooth-headed Klingons, not the ridged foreheads. The model, the mentality of this particular version of the Klingons is going to be based on the Alpha Legion in the Warhammer 40k universe. Now, actually, I shouldn't say Warhammer 40k. Really, it's more the Warhammer 30k in the sense of the pre-Horus Heresy, if you follow Warhammer 40k at all. But so we're talking about the Alpha Legion in that mythology, and we're talking about a culture focused around philosophy, science, and carefully guarded information. So, in the Warhammer 40k universe, you have the Alpha Legion, which is out of all the tropes or the stereotypes that exist within the 40k pantheon of, or should I say, the 30k pantheon of Primarchs that they have in that sci-fi universe. The Alpha Legion is sort of the kings of subterfuge. They are the spies, the folks that operate in the darkness and do the things that no one wants to talk about. Very carefully guarded information. They have contingency plans upon contingency plans. And they're not above or beyond using sort of other agents to do their work. Everybody's a tool. And yet at the same time, whereas in the very sort of Roman legion Spartan mythology of the 30/40k universe in Warhammer, the Alpha Legion is sort of, they still have that hierarchy, the legion kind of structure, but there is no singular leader. There's a figurehead. There is an ideological or idealized vision of what that great person is, but you can't put your finger on who they are because there is this blending in, this sense of camouflage where you can never identify the true leader of the Legion. The story is that there is a leader, his name, the Primarch, the leading general of the Legion, is named Alpharis. He has a twin brother named Omegon. And they have a very sort of singular presence when it comes to the kind of individual that they are, but they blend in very easily amongst all the other legionnaires or the people that populate their army, their legion. They stand out with their charisma. They stand out with their intellect. They stand out with their capability and their competency. But when they choose to, they can like disappear into a crowd, and you don't really appreciate who they are or where they are. So because of this anonymity and this ability to disappear in the crowd, anyone can be Alpharius. No one really knows what that individual looks like. They all look the same. You could look at 10 different Alpha Legionnaires in the Warhammer 30k universe, and they all look a little different, but at the same time, they all look the same. And so it's very difficult, even for the brothers, the other Primarchs in the Pantheon, to be able to recognize their brother amongst the other Legionnaires. And there's a lot of examples in the very large novel series that is the Horus Heresy, where you have interactions between one or more of these superhero type figures, and they're unable to really identify or understand, depending on how you read the story, who Alpharius or Omegon are. It's very, like I say, this sense of subterfuge is really present there. So in that sense, they have this symbology of the Alpha symbol and the Omega symbol, hence the twin brothers. But also they have this symbol of the Hydra. Hydra being, of course, a mythical Greek creature. One of the characteristics about the Hydra is that when you cut off one of its head, two more sprout up. And so no matter what you do to try and eliminate the leadership or the competency or the capability of the Legion, inexplicably more heads in the case of the Hydra, but more avenues of attack, more vectors of approach, more arms are sprouted, more heads are sprouted from the Hydra, and you're never able to actually kill the beast. So it's kind of like the mythos of the Alpha Legion anyway, and it's a strong influence in what we're doing here. So without any further ado, let me read you my story. Preface by saying I'm not a fantastic writer. You tell me in the comments how good or how well or how poorly I did this. I'll leave it up to you. The history of the Great Schism and the rise of the Alpha. Centuries before the current day, Klingon society was a prosperous world excelling in science, philosophy, and culture of curiosity. From its ancient roots as a warrior culture, Klingon society had matured over time into a world that valued intellect as much as physical prowess. Our minds are a weapon that must be continually worked and honed to a deadly edge. Only once we have the synergy of the strength of might and the knowledge of how to use it can any true Klingon reach his full potential. Con Mok, philosopher monk. The Klingon species reached the stars and traveled beyond their solar system. A burgeoning federation of many worlds colonized and developed by Klingons grew into a trade network that brought exotic materials and technologies to the center of the Klingon Federation and the homeworld. Developments in synthetic life spurred the imagination and exploration of the Klingon genome and discoveries in genetic science. Klingons understood the building blocks of life and manipulated them to harness the true potential of the Klingon mind and physique. Klingon society branched and segmented, creating castes of societies privileged to take advantage of these breakthroughs. Close to this time, AI was born and worked in service to Klingons to accelerate the expansion of their knowledge as the new frontiers of science and technology were discovered and serviced the concurrent development of AI and genetic research. Over the following decades, Klingon society began to turn inwards. The genetic castes pursued increasing niches of perfection, evolving into highly distorted versions of the original Klingon template, and AI began to develop independently and accelerated its own autonomy, growing into self-sufficient communities of synthetic life and artificial intelligence. Eventually, the divisions in Klingon society grew so divergent, it began to fall apart. 25 years before the Great Schism, the Helix War started. Divisions between the genetic castes had become so divergent, they declared independence from the greater Klingon society and from each other. They created such political turmoil that previously peaceful communities of AI banded together in fear and began an undeclared war of liberation against their organic oppressors. Over the next generation, infighting between the castes tore the Federation apart. Castes, or houses of genetic lineage, warred with each other over doctrine and near religious orthodoxy to their genetic principles. While their conflict decimated the Klingon population, the unseen war of AI infiltration into the systems of trade and communication across the Klingon Federation continued. 6 months before the Great Schism, the Klingon Federation had imposed peace upon the castes and brought an end to the conflict, but at significant cost. The Klingon military was exhausted. exhausted of resources and equipment, and a period of rebuilding and reinvestment was set to begin. There was great optimism and hope for the future Klingon society found. Try that again. There was great optimism and hope for the future as Klingon society found itself rediscovering the philosophical foundations that had brought it such success in the past. At their weakest and with their guard down, the time to strike was clear. The Great Schism began. The first indication that anything was wrong was the silencing of the interstellar communications network. One by one, the remote colonies and planetary civilizations of the Klingon Federation went silent. Ships that serviced the interstellar trade network suffered catastrophic failures in their navigation and engineering systems. In the span of a single lunar cycle, every interstellar trade vessel was either destroyed or suffered navigational errors that saw them lost in interstellar space. Colonies and planets of the Federation were completely wiped out, with a multi-pronged attack of nuclear detonations, EMPs, and viral bombs that destroyed all organic life. The only planet to survive was the homeworld, Kronos. At the dawn of AI, a doomsday device had been built into the infrastructure of Kronos. If ever artificial life were to turn against its masters, there needed to be a safety measure. Never imagined to be used, it was a mechanical system that would launch a core kill code embedded in the very first generation of AI. Unknowingly, this building block of code had been replicated in every subsequent generation since AI's birth. Once the first nuclear detonations were detected, the system was activated and automatically killed over 90% of all artificial life on the planet. But the damage had been done. Millions were dead. The government and the majority of the infrastructure had been destroyed. The Klingon Federation had been ripped apart, and Kronos was divided into pockets of surviving factions which struggled to survive. Klingon society had been torn apart, left isolated, and struggled to move on. In the shadows, years before the fall, a single intelligence had foreseen what was to come. This AI had gathered all the knowledge it could and sequestered itself in an ancient philosophical temple in the heart of an ancient mountain. With the support of warrior monks, Father, as the AI was called, used the gene arts of the castes to fashion a singular individual with enhanced strengths of the Klingon genome. Father engineered a singular solution that embodied the roots of the Klingon warrior philosophy. Enhanced with a sharpened intellect and physical prowess, this great leader would be a rallying point to which all surviving Klingons could look to. However, while in Genesis, a most unexpected thing happened. The embryo split. There was no reason for this zygotic splitting to have occurred. The monks seemed to believe the mere power and potency of the embryo couldn't be contained within a single body, and so the embryo was forced to split. As the embryo grew, Father infused it with the genetic knowledge, wisdom, and lessons of history. They were imbued with the physical characteristics that would lead to their mastery of the battlefield, both terrestrial and interstellar. They were designed to be kings and lead the recovery of the Klingon species. After the schism, Kronos burned. But from those ashes emerged a shadow, a mysterious figure who appeared in multiple places throughout this period of history. He can be found helping the wounded, leading great hosts to noble victories, and protecting the vulnerable. He devastated the tyrants, tracked down errant AI and gene cults who came from the old castes. He rallied a great army around him and unified the planet in less than 50 years. A philosopher king whose name touched every Klingon's lips, but who could never accurately be described. Even today, his exact description is vague, and his name is used by many as a badge of office for acting with his authority. He is our Savior. He is our protector. He is our leader. He is the Alpha. Today, Klingons are united once again and are reaching out to the stars to explore strange new worlds, seek out life and new civilizations, to observe, infiltrate, and manipulate our enemies before they can do us harm. This is the Klingon Empire. What do you think? What do you think of that that intro? I mean, it's not the greatest work of literature, but it's something. You tell me in the comments. What do you think? What do you think of that garbage that I just read, or that literary genius that you think I am? I know you don't think that, but let me take a moment and just check out the check out the comments on this. I'm sure these guys are going to be vicious with me, and I'm sure you will too. So don't hold back. Don't be shy. Let me know what you think about that as a story, and especially the idea that's going on here, that we're pulling from multiple different canons or inspirations from different other sci-fi lineages as to like what we're doing here, or at least the story that I'm telling. You tell me. So let's see here. Jim Howard, again, commenting on the links. Yep. Nice sharp claws, Chuck says, of course. I mean, got to keep him pointy and prickly. Chuck says, I am playing as the Conte of Orion in Starfire Classic. So, Chuck, we'll have to talk about that because I don't know what that is. I don't know that reference. Maybe you guys in the comments, if you're watching this after the fact, do, in which case, let me know. Conte of Orion in Starfire Classic. Don't know who they are. It'd be interesting to find out. Of course, Jim is playing a religious theocracy, so to speak, and everybody that's not lining up with the Hydran religious doctrine is heretical, and so a war is highly likely with him, as it would seem. And he says the sword of Hydrax cleaves sharply, which lines up very quickly or very easily with that. Heresy, he says, much bringing to the truth of the gods is needed. Paul says, very good stuff, thank you. Kanate of Orion. Okay, well, I still don't know what the Kanate or Conte of Orion, who they are. Love to find out more about that. I'll have to check that out after the stream is over. Let me pop that in there. Okay, so that's the story of the Klingon Empire, and I'm sure at this point you're probably wondering, Tony, I appreciate you telling us the story. Let's get to the real meat and potatoes. What's going on the map? Let me take a quick sip. All right. Well, if you have no patience, then let's show you Sorry, Jim's putting in a comment here. Con 8? Oh, Con 8. Oh, my goodness. Thank you. Not the sharpest tool in the shed, it would seem. But with that said, let's get to the map. Ba-boom. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the starting point of the Klingon Empire in Star Trek New Worlds. I'm sure that my fellow players are pausing the video right now and zooming in to see what my hex position is. Let me just save you the trouble. It's Lima 47. Come get some, as Ash would say, my Evil Dead quote of the day. Yeah, that's where I am. So as you can see here, in this particular game, we're starting off with a couple of resources. We've got a small exploration freighter and a large exploration freighter. Now, we have a bunch of tables and things that like give you the chance or give you some insight on the chance of these ships being able to explore things. Suffice it to say that a small exploration freighter has a 1 in 3 chance of exploring a hex, and a large exploration freighter has about a 50-50 shot. You can put, if you don't have, if your faction does not have an early era or a W era survey cruiser or survey ship of some type, then you can embark a prime team onto the large exploration freighter, and that will increase your chance by 1. So it's like a 4 out of 6 chance, 2/3. So that's basically how that works. And so that's a start. Let's show you what the Klingon capital looks like. Of course, that's behind my head. Let me pull that out front here. So you can see that in our home world, or in our home system, we start with a home world, which gives us 10 economic points. You have a minor planet, which in this case provides 3, and then a colony, which provides 1. Something sort of important to note here, that in this particular iteration of the game, whereas in previous versions, all different planetary types provide supply. In the past, colonies did not. Minor and majors, or all the other planets did, but colonies did not. In this iteration of the game, and I've had this discussion with the GM, colonies will be providing supply, a point of supply. It's basically the differentiating factor between a resource and a colony. Colony is a supply point, a resource is not. So that's just the fundamental difference between those two. But as you can see here, colony, that's the bottom one. Then you've got a minor planet, which is the small, and then the large home planet there. So that's that. Let's take a walk around the map with fleet cap. Ladies and gentlemen, my fleet cap is a whopping 6, or at least that's the ships that I have. And you can see that very quickly and easily here. The defense factor of the large freighter is 4, of the small freighter is 2. That's 6. There you go. That was a quick and easy one. Let's talk about EP. Economic points we're starting with. Now, this particular number is just a little off, but fundamentally it's 14 is the number that we're dealing with. That's how much EP I'll be getting per turn gross. This number will, in the future, be represented as, for example, this would be 140 divided by 10. That gives you the magic number of 14. The reason why you do the divided by 10 piece, it allows you to do increments, basically 0.5, which allows for you to take into consideration the happiness of the planet. We have a range of different impacts when it comes to the attitude of a planet. If it's overly like happy plus is a way to describe it. They're indifferent, they're friendly, and they're happy plus, or they are indifferent, unhappy, and then happy negative. So if you're on either extreme, usually there's an economic impact that's associated with that. On the major planets, like the homeworlds, if you have a happy plus, I believe it's a +1 to your overall economy. For minor planets, it's plus 0.5. And it works the other way too, with negative, so -1 and -0.5 respectively. So anyways, there's some perks and negatives there when it comes to EP. So we got EP, we got fleet cap. That's really all I got. There's not much to show on this particular map. However, in the interest of working towards our Battle of Kitty Litter, let me show you the interesting turn and the last turn that I'll show you in this particular sequence. Are you ready? Boom. Ooh, what is that? What is that? All right, let me explain. So as you can see here, we have 2 minor factions, or like NPC characters that have been discovered. The first, the top here, which is the yellow and green. This is the Lyrans. So this is a Lyran faction. So any faction can be basically any race or any faction in the game. Any minor faction, that is, can be any like Klingon, Federation, in this case Lyran. They can be any one of those things. You'll notice here that it's a colony, and they've got this fleet of fire squadrons. So let's do a quick Lyran fire squadron assessment here. So you'll see here that there's a couple crippled ships. These were not crippled when I first encountered them. So they have a WDD and a WFF. So those are the ships that are currently in position here. So they have 4 ships, 2 frigates, 2 destroyers, and there you are. And so we discovered the Lyrans, and then we discovered the Carnavan, which are these guys over here. And you will see that the Carnavan, they are a green and yellow by contrast, so inverted colors. And the Carnavan are basically walking werewolves, or wolf people, if you want to call it that, or dog people, more like wolf people. Whereas the Lyrans are lynx, the Carnavan are canines. So you've got a very interesting cats and dogs mix here, which I found particularly amusing. When we talk about the Battle of Kitty Litter, let me describe to you what I first found with the Lyrans. So the Lyrans had much what the Carnavan have here, and the Carnavan and the Lyrans are basically carbon copies for each other in this context. So let me pull up the Carnavan Ruby Fleet, and you'll see what they have. So these guys have 1 DD, 2 FFs. Obviously, you can see the Lyrans have 2 DDs and 2 FFs. But the big difference here is the presence of the Y era planetary ground base. So the Lyrans had one of those as well. So what I had done is, as an experiment to be able to see the effectiveness of ground combat, because in this game, you obviously have fleets of ships fighting each other in space, but in this case, you have a planetary ground base that can like shoot lasers up. Think of like Empire Strikes Back. The ships and the shuttles are leaving the ice planet, and there's this cannon shooting like blasts into space, and they hit one of the Star Destroyers, and it kind of shuts down the Star Destroyer as the ships get by. That kind of idea. I honestly can't look back to Star Trek and think of any example where there's a planetary ground base engaging fleets of ships in space, but that's the one that comes to mind when it comes to Star Wars. A little heretical, I know, Star Wars, Star Trek, but, you know, sci-fi nonetheless. So they have a planetary ground base, and what I was looking to do is experiment with the planetary ground base and ground forces mechanic. What I'd done is I had built a small freighter troop transport. So it's a YFTS is what it's called. So Y era freighter, T for troop, and small. That's what the way those letters map out. So Y era freighter, troop transport, small, has 2 G factors, or 2 basically like armies or battalions. So I attacked them with a relatively small fleet, and the intent was to take out the ground base. Basically, land troops, see what that would look like, and how quickly and easily or effectively they could take them out. So, in that vein, let me see if I can pull up one of the things that's really, really useful in this particular iteration of the game is that the Game Master provides you very detailed info on the battle outcome. This wasn't something that happened in previous turns or previous interactions. So what it does is it allows me to be able to, as a player, see and understand kind of the interaction of the battle, and so to really understand the mechanics. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole kit and caboodle. Kit and caboodle. It's not meant to be punny. Either I'm not going to go into that big deal for you because you probably don't care. But let me just say that they provide a lot of information as far as the different steps of combat that the rules lay out and understanding exactly how things worked. So let me explain to you sort of how this worked. The bottom line to understand is that I attacked the Lyrans with a force of 2 D3s, which are like the early W era cruisers, and 4 frigates. They're called E1s for the Klingons. They're a little weaker than frigates. So E1s, 4 of them, 2 cruisers. They had 2 destroyers and 2 frigates, and then they had a planetary ground base. Oh, and of course I had that troop transport that I was talking about. So the intent here was to be able to get the troop transport on the ground and do a ground assault. So the biggest thing about this is that when the ground assault occurred, I'm just looking for here it is. So when the ground assault occurred, I delivered, I love this, I delivered 8 damage onto the ground base. If you will look here, and I don't know if you can see it on the map, the ground base only has a defense factor of 2, meaning it can only take 2 damage. So my small troop transport delivers 8 points of damage to the ground base, and it takes it out, which was excellent. I mean, that was the test that I was doing in that execution, to just trying to see how that worked. Long story short, due to a slight miscommunication on my end, once the ground assault was successful, I retreated. Now, here's something for my fellow players to remember. If you're retreating and you have slow units in your fleet, slow units being like convoys, transports, things that don't move like your other ships, like your frigates, your cruisers, and destroyers, and all those, you separate into two groups. And the slow units being one group and the non-slow units being another. And if there is a pursuit battle, meaning that once you decide to retreat and you're running away, the defending force can choose to follow you and like hunt you down. If they choose to do that, which in this case they did, they can choose which group they go after, which in this case was the slow units, understandably, and they destroy my troop transport. That was a misunderstanding and miscommunication on my end as far as like what I intended to do. And as a result, I lost the troop transport. However, the benefit was, as you can see here on the map, I crippled 2 of his ships and I destroyed the ground base. So as a result of that one sort of interaction and altercation, I was able to prove and validate a method of taking out YB or the ground bases, which was important to me, and then to be able to validate the, well, by mistake, figure out this retreat mechanic. So that was huge. Worked out that piece. Long story short, followed it up with what I call the Battle of Kitty Litter, Part 2. And then I came back at him with a significant number of ships. And, well, yeah, things happened. I'm going to see if I can share this. Hold on. I'm going to share with you an image that is on the... let's see here. There you go. So you can see this image. This is the battle mat that is used on in the game. So in the game, which is normally played on a tabletop, they have like a template which looks like this that you put your ships on and do the battle exchange. So as you can see here, you can clearly see this is the initial battle. Part 1 of the Battle of Kitty Litter. You can see the 2 D3s and the 4 E1s. You can see my YFTS with its 2 battalions of troops. You can see the YBS up in the corner here. Sorry, the YPGB, the Planetary Ground Base, and then of course the opposing force of ships here. Important to note, the Lyran W era destroyers, a 1.5, which is that little triangle. It's a 1.5 attack and a 3 defense, and then the 1-2 for the frigates, versus my straight 2 for my frigate, and then of course a 3-5 for the cruiser. So that's what that looked like in the initial stage, and then of course you saw the result, which was the crippled destroyer and the crippled frigate, and of course I lost my troop transport. So yeah, that's what that looks like. And then we had round 2, and then in round 2 I just basically finished the job. So that was the Battle of Kitty Litter. And as a result, basically the whole purpose of the Battle of Kitty Litter was to be able to prove the concept of the troop transport, and it's an attack on ground bases and so on, and prove that mechanic, and to be able to use, of course, manage the fleet and retreat mechanics, and basically just test a bunch of things to make sure that I had a clear and sound understanding as a player as to the mechanics and how this was going to work with the GM. Interesting to note, for the GM perspective, this was the first time that we were running a battle, so there was a lot of sort of back and forth to be able to set out our standard procedures on how that was going to work and a common understanding. Worked out great, and so looking forward to kind of future iterations of what this all looks like. But this is my turn. Basically, this is at the end of turn 10. I got this as my turn 11 map, and that's what that looks like. So this is turn 11, or at least this is the map that my turn 11 submission was based off of. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bang. So what do you think? Let me head over to the comments, because I'm sure my fellow players are going to say a thing or two. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, much bringing the truth. Good stuff. Kanate. Yeah, got it. They are the Terrans' main adversaries, Chuck says. Interesting. No probs, matey. Get him. Feline, very aggressive, honor bound. Oh, okay. So this is Chuck talking about his Lyrans being very aggressive and honor bound, which is cool because that kind of maps with a lot of the, the traditional Klingon, not necessarily the Klingons that we're playing in this iteration, but very interesting to see that kind of dynamic there. Hey, Bill's Smitty's with us here. Gorn in the house. Horns a playing, riding in a space dragon. Horns a playing, riding on a space dragon. Got it. Kind of like Flight of the Valkyries. I think of Apocalypse Now coming in on helicopters. Obviously, you're on space dragons. Obviously, a little different. Proud Lyrans hunted down the vile, cowardly Klingon barbarians, and feasting will be great. Of course. They hunted me down, and I turned around, and then I, gave them a swat and hit them with a spray can of water because obviously, I mean, that's the only thing that cats respond to, right? I mean, I don't want to really hurt them. I just want to let them know who the alpha is. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's got to have a pack leader. Just happens to be me. The sooner you realize that, the better. We'll see how that goes. So that was the Battle of Kitty Litter. Hope you appreciated that back and forth and the sharing of that that sort of insight when it came to the ground combat and the mechanics that we played out there. So what have we talked about today so far? We've talked about, do you want to play with us? So if you're interested in playing, like I said, talked about some of this. We can even go into some more, if it's useful to you and you're interested in playing, we can go into the mechanics of some of this gameplay that I just kind of laid out. We can also, I just gave you the turn reveal of up to, at this point, up to turn 10. This is my turn 11 map, but I haven't, this represents everything up to turn 10. We talked about the Battle of Kitty Litter and the exchange that happened there, and then the details of the campaign. So how are we moving forward here? Well, as I mentioned before, we have 7 players. We have 10 starting locations for various factions, so we can have up to 3 more that we're looking to add. If you're interested in playing, then please contact us on the Facebook page in the comments right now. I'll post it or pin the comment rather on the video once this is done. And you can check out our Facebook page, which currently still reads Lost Stars, and then you can reach out to us and see about joining the campaign. And there is a very limited window to be able to do that, however, so if that's something you want to do, move quickly on that, because there'll be a point once we start bumping into each other that we won't be able to do that anymore. And, or if you were to join the campaign at a later date, you would be joining much in the vein of what happened in the last campaign, which is your start date or the start point of your playing would be later in the calendar, so to speak. So like, for example, I think we start at year 60 in this. So year 60, and then we move forward. And so you might start at year 70 and then you'd move forward. So that just intrinsically puts you at 10 years kind of behind us in your rate of expansion and exploration and all those kinds of things. So puts you at a little bit of a deficit. The earlier you get in, the better, the more equal the playing field. And I mean, regardless, it's fun one way or the other. But if you want to play, like I say, 3 other starting spots that are available, contact us now and we'll get you started. Other than that, details of the campaign, we are moving ahead in these sort of like fists and bursts of turns. All the other players we're kind of getting to the point where we're all at turn 20, and then we will continue on from there. The intent or the plan here is you can process multiple turns at a time, be able to expand and move sort of that ball forward and build out the story. And then once we start bumping into each other to a significant degree, then we'll start kind of dialing it down to a turn-by-turn basis. Kind of what you saw before in the previous live streams, where we would kind of give you 1 turn or maybe 2 at a time, because the turn processing happened every four days or so. That was the tempo that we were maintaining. What that tempo looks like after we start bumping into each other and how that workload sort of impacts our GM and his ability to process those turns is something we will wait to see. However, at the very least, we'll be bringing you a new turn every week. But since we are all sort of so jazzed and excited about playing this game, and we really enjoy the interaction of the diplomacy, the interaction, and all that stuff, I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of intrinsic motivation for the players and the GM to be able to get turns in as quickly as possible. So yeah, the future of the campaign, we will be continuing to drive this going forward. And a couple final notes sort of from the admin side on my end about this channel and things that are coming. One, we are still on the drive to 100. As we have talked about before in previous episodes related to Lost Stars, we are building this channel as a way to be able to share and have fun with this experience and build a player base of like-minded individuals who enjoy playing this F&E game. If that sounds like you, then please consider subscribing, if only to be able to help us build the channel. Of course, keep on track with the evolving story of our campaign. And if you do like this particular video and the things that we're sharing, then please, give us a little feedback, hit a thumbs up, leave a comment, let us know how you feel about what it is that we're doing here, good or bad. That way we can at least get some feedback and understand what you want or what's better for you as an audience watching this and getting sort of feedback on it. Do you want to see more live streams like this with a little bit of tutorials sprinkled in there? Would you prefer to see more sort of narrative stories, like a montage associated with my little story that started there? Very akin to the very first video that's on this channel and things like that. Is that something you'd like to see more of? Do you want to see some YouTube shorts? You tell me, and we'll see how that goes. Additionally, so we're on the drive to 100, which means once we get to 100 subscribers, that's just a milestone when it comes to YouTube. And once we get to that milestone, it just helps the YouTube algorithm helps us tell the YouTube algorithm who likes to watch this stuff and spread that message or spread this video and spread the community to people who are like-minded, like other people who enjoy Star Trek, other folks who enjoy strategy, sci-fi strategy games and turn-based stuff. If you like that kind of stuff, we want you to be able to watch this video. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but we want to build that community here and helping us by subscribing to the channel and giving us thumbs up and things like that and comments in the comments, typing comments in the comments, that is, helps us sort of spread the word to as many people who would find this useful as possible. So last thing is that I'll be working on some more sort of creative stuff with some of the other players in the campaign. We've talked about it before, having interviews with them about like the history and the background of their species or their faction, talking about what they're doing and the direction they're going in their campaign. Especially at this early stage, it would be really good to be able to flush out some of those stories and to be able to understand what's going on from that player's perspective. So we'll be looking to do some of those sort of one-on-one interview type things, as well as we have some phenomenal talent in this group of people, not only from the sort of software architecture and building up things in the back end to be able to help make this experience just better for you, but also some visual talent, so to speak, that's going to be able to bring some more sort of eye candy to what we're showing you, and I'm hoping to bring that to you in the weeks to come. So be on the lookout for that. And lastly, if you're interested in a specific kind of video, a tutorial, a short thing, or whatever the case may be, I'm kind of repeating a point from before, please let us know in the comments so that I can dial in on that piece and work on that for you. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the thumbnail for today, talking about the Battle of Kitty Litter. We have some more sort of punny things that'll be coming in the turns to come, or in the broadcast to come. Hopefully you find it entertaining. If you do, please thumbs up, comment below, let me know what you do and you don't like about things like those thumbnails. And if not, let me know what you would rather see to be able to help you decide that this is something that you want to watch. If you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up on this video. If you've watched it this far, please consider subscribing, and please spread the word, share the news, tell two friends, and let everybody know that we're out here trying to build this community of folks who like to play this game. And if you haven't already, reach out to us on Facebook. Let us know that you want to play, or just follow the page and let us know. Get involved in our dialogue and let us know what other kind of Starfleet universe things do you play? Do you play Starfleet battles? Do you play F&E in real life on different tabletops? Are there other strategy games that you enjoy to play? And would you like to see some of those other strategy games displayed here on this channel? Not just Star Trek based. I mean, I suppose we could play something like Star Trek Catan, maybe. But things like that, would you prefer to see some other kind of games like that other than just this F&E stuff that we're sharing with you right now? Let us know in the comments, one way or the other. It's all fun, and that's what we're all about here, having a good time. So thank you so much for joining us here today. Near the hour mark, I want to say thank you, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.